Hey viewers, welcome back to the King Kong review series. We're in the 1960s now, and we're going to take a look at the Japanese films by Toho. So let's not waste any time and... Actually, you know what? I shouldn't be reviewing this here. No. I should be reviewing this in Japan. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to use my transporter device to get me to Japan. This is King Kong vs. Godzilla. Mr. Taco, the chairman of a pharmaceutical company, learns of Roman tomato-sized berries that grow on Faro Island are a miracle cure, and that the natives worship a god called King Kong who has allegedly grown to giant size from eating the berries. What better way to promote the product, Taco figures, than to bring the creature back to Japan? So he leads an expedition with Sakurai and Furu to get the berries and the monster. Meanwhile, some American pilots discover a chunk of glacier Godzilla was sealed in back in 1955. From the previous film, Godzilla Raids Again. Godzilla escapes from his icy prison and returns to Japan in a wake of destruction. Meanwhile, Sakurai's sister's boyfriend, Kazuo, is busy trying to sell an invisible but super strong wire, which of course no one wants until Kong escapes and runs amok in Tokyo. Capturing him and now having two monsters in Japan, the army decides the only way to destroy the monsters is to have them fight to the death. So, from watching the original King Kong first and only hearing about Godzilla as a kid, somewhere in my brain, it was kind of obvious that this idea would come up. Two of the most famous monsters of all time duking it out. And this was new in people's minds when they made it. So what's the history? Well, in the late 50s, Willis O'Brien was going through some trouble in his career, having many ideas that he wanted to put on the screen thrown out by studios. Looking for a way to bump his career up again, he went back to the giant ape that got him fame and decided to fill a few ideas to bring Kong back to the silver screen. Though remaking the film entered his mind, the idea of Kong fighting another famous monster was to him a better approach, since the 1940s had made big bucks off Universal monsters teaming up and fighting each other with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman and House of Dracula. Being a fan of the Frankenstein monster in novel and film, he began to write a script for King Kong vs. Frankenstein. I'll explain the plot in another video. Meanwhile, in Japan, Toho Studios had just made their first big successful monster film that began the kaiju genre. Enter Godzilla, or Gojira, the film that showcased a man in a dinosaur suit stomping Tokyo as a symbol of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The film was a successful hit in Japan, America, and around the world in 1954, so much that Toho made a sequel called Godzilla Raids Again, where he battles another monster called Anguirus. Toho would later make other kaiju films such as Rodan and Mothra in the late 50s. Losing a bit of steam after a few films, producer Tomiyuki Tanaka decided to bring Godzilla back in a widescreen color feature. The question was, who would be his competitor? Being fans and inspired to make Godzilla because of the original 1933 King Kong, Toho thought the idea of bringing the two monsters together would make big money not just in Japan, but around the globe. So they went to RKO personally to pitch the idea. RKO agreed, but didn't tell O'Brien. Wow. Dick move, guys. Shortly after the deal, Merian C. Cooper heard the news and was rightfully pissed off about it since he created the character. What followed was one of the many battles over the course of 6.5 decades over the rights to King Kong. In this round, Cooper lost.
Well, there's a good reason.
The movie is a kaiju film, meaning that the monsters come before characters, but I will try to talk about the non-monster characters the best I can, even though they're bland and very forgettable. First, there's Mr. Taco, who is the most memorable of the cast. Playing a denim-like role, his character is more comedic than brave, always acting hyper on some sort of drug that makes him twitch. The two guys hired by Taiko to explore the island are bland, boring, and uninteresting. The only scene that I gave two shits about them is where they confront Taco on the ship porting Kong to Tokyo. Vegeta is bland, but all I can think of is Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Famiko is only there for Kong to have a love interest. The army general is there to be a two-dimensional general guy, and the natives? They're Japanese extras painted to look African. Kind of racist there, Toho! With this being a Godzilla film, most of the effects were done with men in monster suits and model sets. A lot of scenes from the movie are memorable, like Kong's encounters with Godzilla and the giant octopus, and although Godzilla looks great and the rest of the effects and sets are standard issue, Kong looks terrible. The suit has a visible zipper and arms that are long and skinny, not at all like a real gorilla. The masks look like a combination of a 5-year-old clay sculpting of Kong 33's long face made tiny compared to the body, and puppet-on-string facial features. They also dumbed down Kong's character, making him a tad stupid. Now, a lot of people have covered that there was an alternate ending where Godzilla won the battle. I have 2 theories about this rumor. One, the rumor started in a series of children's books by Crestwood, explained in the Kong edition. 2, if Godzilla did win, I don't think the ending would have been so victorious. Overall, though the idea is awesome, the movie is kind of poorly made. Don't get me wrong, I love Toho, and the effects in this film are mildly good, not just their best. 6 out of 10. But surprisingly, the film did well around the world, enough to revive Godzilla's franchise to make more sequels over the rest of the 60s and late 70s, while Kong got another Japanese film 5 years later. And we'll talk about that next time. Now, if you